During his vacation in London, a lazy, lasagna-loving cat will have to help another feline, identical to him, protect his inheritance from an ambitious and cruel lord. Today we recap the story of the 2006 movie Garfield 2. On the outskirts of a royal palace in England lives a pampered cat called Prince, who lives surrounded by every kind of luxury imaginable. His food is prepared and served by dozens of employees, he has private massage sessions, and even the sand he needs is delivered on a silver tray. On the other side of the world, there is a cat just like him, who is not a king but feels like one. Garfield lives with a human named John, a docile little dog named Odie, and has cable TV, lasagna, and his own armchair. One day, when the animal arrives home, it finds a strange decoration on the floor, with rose petals scattered everywhere. However, he doesn't pay much attention to this, until John approaches and makes a declaration, followed by a marriage proposal. Garfield is terrified, but in reality John was practicing the proposal he will make when his girlfriend arrives for a romantic dinner. The idea doesn't please the cat, who knocks over Liz's photo and switches the music, causing his guardian to freak out and spill wine on his shirt. After getting himself together, John greets Liz at the door. He's about to propose when she excitedly reveals that she's going to be attending a charity event for the England Animal Welfare Team, so she'll need to travel to London the next day. This news messes with the young man's plans for the evening, which is only made worse when Garfield shows that he has hidden the ring from his guardian's pocket. Liz is thrilled with the decorations John has made for dinner, but she needs to get home and pack for the trip. Then she leaves after kissing her boyfriend goodbye. Even without having proposed and with Garfield stuffed from having eaten all the dinner by himself, John is not discouraged and decides to travel to London to surprise Liz. Again, this idea does not please Garfield one bit. To make matters worse, John decides to take the cat and Odie to a veterinary clinic, where the two will stay while he is away. In the midst of his cries of revolt, Garfield manages to open the kennel's grill, escapes from the place along with Odie, and both get back into John's car, hiding in the trunk. Back at the royal palace, following the funeral of Lady Eleanor Carlisle, the lawyers begin reading the will. Outside the window, the animals of the place talk to each other, worried about who will inherit the woman's estate. The first to be appointed as the butler of the house, Smithy, who becomes the guardian of the estate, being able to live in the castle for as long as he wants, while taking care of the animals that his mistress loved so much. Then it was time to appoint the heir to all the lady's property. The lord, named Manfred Dargis and who was her nephew, steps forward believing himself to be the new owner of the castle. However, to everyone's surprise, the real heir is the cat, Prince. Both the cat and the other animals in the castle are overjoyed at the news, while Dargis loses control and attacks the lawyer. However, he pulls himself together when he is informed that when Prince perishes, the estate will pass to him. Outside the castle, several tourists are introduced to the site by a guide, and some of them ask to take pictures at the moment when Lord Dargis was passing by. However, what they really wanted was to photograph the real owner of the castle, in this case, the cat that was passing by at that moment in his carriage, which makes the lord enraged. Inside the palace, Prince announces to his animal friends that they will always have a place to live as long as he owns the estate. However, the dog, Winston, warns his master, saying that the lord intends to take everything for himself. However, the heir does not believe this. Unfortunately, the dog was right and Prince is captured by Dargis, who traps the animal in a basket and throws it into the river, hoping the cat will drown. Meanwhile, John arrives in London and settles into the same hotel where Liz is staying. When she finds out her boyfriend is there, the young woman is happy to meet him and he again tries to propose. However, at that moment, his suitcase opens by itself and, to the couple's surprise, Odie appears along with Garfield. At the castle, the weasel Nigel appears to inform the other animals that Lord Dargis has thrown Prince into a basket in the river. Preston the macaw tries to take advantage of the situation and appoints himself as the new successor to the throne. But Winston decides that he and the other animals must investigate what happened to the cat and find out what the lord is up to. At the hotel, John and Liz plan a tour of London sights, while Odie and Garfield must stay in their room. Meanwhile, Smithy searches for Prince, and when he arrives at the spot where Dargis is practicing target shooting, he asks if he has seen the cat. The lord says no and feigns concern, but soon changes the subject by asking the butler to fetch his clothes. In an act of cruelty, the villain aims his gun at the animals that were nearby, but Smithy prevents him from shooting them, as they belong to Lady Eleanor. Bored at the hotel, Garfield and Odie take advantage of the chambermaid opening the door to tidy up the room and run away. Wandering the streets of London, the two visit various sites while searching for John and Liz. The little dog even manages to make a royal guard get angry and run after them after doing his necessities thing on the man's leg. Having failed to find John, Garfield is about to give up on his mission when he is almost hit by a car, which was being driven by Smithy. Seeing the cat identical to Prince, the butler takes the animal, who tries to resist but changes his mind when he sees the meat pie in the back of the vehicle. Quickly, Odie tries to reach his friend, but cannot. Just then, the real Prince emerges from the sewer, having survived the Lord's plan. He then asks Odie to take him back to the castle. Coincidentally, at that moment, John appears on the scene and confuses him with Garfield. Seeing the cat all dirty, the man decides to go back to the hotel to give him a bath. In the meantime, the real Garfield indulges in meat pie in the car, while Smithy takes him to the castle. With Prince's disappearance, Lord Dargis wastes no time calling the lawyers to inform them that he is Lady Eleanor's new heir, which raises suspicions about the animal's disappearance. In addition, the Lord calls an investor named Abby to present his plan for the castle. On a model, he shows her that he intends to create a tourist center on the estate, including removing the woods and the corral. Abby asks what will happen to the animals, and he says only that they will serve as a meal for the guests of his tourist center. A short time later, Garfield arrives at the mansion and, despite being impressed by the size of the place, it doesn't take him long to settle into his new quarters. Winston the dog arrives to welcome him and takes him to meet the other animals. In the midst of his necessities, the cat just makes a humorous speech and retreats, allowing everyone to clearly realize that he is not the real prince. To make matters worse, the mouse Claudius appears warning everyone about Lord Dargis' evil plan, and Winston suggests that even if that is not the real cat, the animals should protect him, as then the villain will have no right to the castle. At the hotel, John finishes bathing Prince and the cat says he needs help getting back to his castle to save his subjects, but is completely ignored. Meanwhile, Winston tries to convince Garfield that he is part of royalty and should stay at the castle, where he will have all the luxury, comfort and, of course, plenty of food. The cat then decides to stay and begins to enjoy all the comforts his new home offers. However, as Lord Dargis finishes his final negotiations with the investor, he sees Garfield in the castle and, thinking he is Prince, fears his plan has been ruined. The villain then sends the investor away quickly and questions Smithy about the feline's return. After confirming this information, the Lord discreetly takes a dagger and goes looking for the cat. But before he can hurt him, Garfield suggests to Winston that they make the castle more fun and starts running around the hall, knocking over expensive vases and artworks. One of them even ends up crushing Dargis. Unhappy with the situation, he again contacts the lawyers, who will arrive on Monday to talk about the will. Dargis realizes he must hurry to put an end to the cat, or he will lose his right to the inheritance again. He narrowly misses losing his fingers too, when the castle animals put a mousetrap on his table, crushing his hand. The creatures then inform Winston of what's going on, and he decides that even though the new prince is snobbish and annoying, they should keep him safe until Tuesday, which is when the lawyers will have sorted out the inheritance issue. Meanwhile, Garfield continues to make changes to the castle, but Lord Dargis devises a new plan to finish him off by releasing the Rottweiler, Ronner, inside the castle to attack him. Then, he uses the cat's pillow so the dog can sniff it out and grind it up with his teeth. However, Winston and the other animals arrive just in time to stop Ronner, saying that there are no cats there. In addition, they take a pair of Dargis pants and start playing with the animal. Moments later, while believing that his plan had worked, the Lord finds the Rottweiler in the house and congratulates him. However, seeing that he was wearing the same pants Winston showed him, the dog attacks him. Meanwhile, the real prince begins to experience the good side of life as an ordinary cat. In a pub, he tries lasagna for the first time and soon falls in love with the meal. The cat sinks its face into the plate to eat all the lasagna, dirtying everyone around it, including John, who, once again, tries to propose to Liz but fails. Far away, Garfield receives a royal meal, but refuses the food and orders his subjects to prepare a lasagna for him. The animals try to cook, but they don't know the recipe and create complete chaos in the castle kitchen. The cat arrives at the place and, after seeing all that mess, the animal teaches everyone how to prepare a delicious lasagna. With the help of his new friends, Garfield prepares a dish so delicious that it leads to a fight to decide who gets the last piece. Back at the hotel, Prince is so satisfied with the lasagna that he doesn't even remember his mission to return to the palace. However, when Liz has to go to the meeting and drops a leaflet, Odie hands the paper to the cat. After opening it, the animal finds the map of London with the location of his castle. Prince then climbs through the bedroom window and says goodbye to Odie, but ends up slipping and falling on the other side. Luckily, he is unhurt and sets off to find the palace. However, John realizes his cat has run away and chases after him. Arriving at the river he saw on the map, Prince jumps off the bridge into a boat to hitch a ride. Meanwhile, Lord Dargis is preparing tea to conclude his business with Abby, but is startled to see the pool overrun by animals. The villain tries to get everyone out, but ends up having a few accidents. In the center of London, John tries to ask Scotland Yard, the city's police, for help in finding Garfield, but they are not very willing to help him. Meanwhile, Lord Dargis tries again to teach the dog Ronner to follow his plan to finish off the cat once and for all. Just then, Smithy arrives on the scene and the Lord tries to disguise his plan. Moreover, to get him out of his way, he orders the butler to go on vacation, and even though he doesn't want to do that, Smithy agrees. On the streets of London, John and Odie try to find Garfield, but are unsuccessful. However, the little dog finds a newspaper on a trolley and shows it to his owner, who sees the picture of the real cat on a news item. John then believes that someone has mistaken Prince for Garfield and decides to go with Odie to Carlisle Castle to look for him. At the royal palace, Liz is with the other speakers for the meeting that will take place soon. She doesn't even suspect that in the same place, Garfield is skateboarding through the corridors. The animal then stops to listen to Winston and Preston arguing in one of the rooms. Listening quietly, Garfield realizes that the two are just using him and that, in reality, he has no chance of belonging to royalty. After hearing all this, the cat leaves the castle hurt. At the same time, Smithy packs his suitcase for a vacation and caresses a picture of Prince, while John rents a car and begins his journey with Odie to find his cat. Still hurt by the harsh words he heard from his animal friends, Garfield stops in front of the painting of one of the Carlisle family ancestors and sees the face of his guardian, John. Seeing that he was selfish to leave him, the animal is willing to go after him. Meanwhile, in the castle chambers, the guide continues to introduce the speakers to the place. Suddenly, Dargis appears pretending to support the cause of environmental protection and even tries to flirt with Liz. However, Garfield arrives just in time and attracts the Lord's attention so that he stays away from John's girlfriend. Unfortunately, the man manages to capture the cat and leaves him trapped in a cell in the dungeon that lies beneath the castle. Shortly after, Prince shows up and gets closer and closer to his castle, hitching a ride with a truck to get there faster. At the same time, John and Odie are also heading there. At the palace, the lawyers finally arrive to finalize the will and, with the prince gone, there is no alternative but to hand over all the assets to the rightful heir, Lord Dargis. Trapped in his cell, Garfield begins to make a melodramatic speech out loud, which turned out to be useful, as the animals in the castle managed to find him. So the mouse and the dog Winston open a passage for Garfield to escape, but the cat is still hurt that he was tricked by his friends just to keep him in the castle pretending to be the prince. After all he has been through, Garfield no longer wants to be royalty and just wants to go back to his home. However, while walking out of the palace, he ends up meeting the real prince in the garden. The royal cat then explains everything that happened and even advises his double to come home, as John is an excellent tutor. However, when the castle animals explain the situation, Garfield decides to stay to help them defeat Lord Dargis once and for all. However, the plan can only work if they work as a team. In front of the castle, the Rottweiler is on watch, but Garfield lures him away as Prince comes through the door. When the dog tries to catch up, the feline appears with his bullfriend and the two chase Ronner far away. Meanwhile, Lord Dargis is working out the final details of the will with the lawyers. However, when he sees Prince's shadow walking around the room, he asks them to leave quickly. Going out looking for the cat, the villain ends up finding Abby, who arrives at the exact moment to conclude the negotiation of the tourist center. The Lord then tries to take her to one of the rooms, but Prince appears and he immediately tries to lose her, as he knows that if she finds out that the true heir to the castle is still alive, the deal will be cancelled. The cat continues to tease Dargis, who tries to catch it at all costs. However, the animal manages to lure him into his room and, when the Lord jumps on the bed to capture him, the ram loosens the rope that held the canopy, which ends up falling on him. After the accident, the villain continues to pursue him, but the cat escapes through a secret elevator in the wall. Dargis tries to reach him by going down the ladder, that slips on the canopy attached to his clothes. At that moment, Abby again emerges asking what is going on, but the man makes up an excuse and asks her to continue waiting in the room. Fed up with being tricked by the cat, the Lord grabs a weapon from the wall to finish him off, but ends up tripping over the leg of one of the hallway armors and getting hit in the head with a shield. While he is unconscious, the ducks come out of their armor and the cats lure the villain into the garden, where he ends up running into the Rottweiler who, upon seeing that his owner is wearing the same pants, starts chasing him. As he tries to flee, the animals begin to attack him by firing the plates of the target game. As the Lord falls to the ground helpless, Ronner appears and finally manages to bite his pants off. Meanwhile, Smithy is waiting for his cab on a bench on the road, when John arrives in his car and asks if he has seen the cat from the picture in the newspaper. Immediately, the butler confirms by saying that that is the Prince of Carlisle Castle. John then says he believes this cat has been mistaken for Garfield and asks for Smithy's help in finding him. Back at the castle, Dargis appears in the dining room completely shattered, and when the lawyers find him, they demand explanations. The Lord just says that no matter what he does, he can't eliminate Prince. In an act of desperation, the man pulls out a crossbow that was in the place and threatens them all, saying that the inheritance will be his anyway. At that moment, Abby appears and is captured by the Lord, who discovers that she was also working with the lawyers to discover the villain's real plans. Suddenly, Prince and Garfield appear on the scene and try to divert Dargis' attention, but he does not intend to give up. Fortunately, John arrives at the palace and Odie immediately rushes to bite the villain's butt, causing him to drop the crossbow that ends up in John's hands. Everyone starts laughing at the man, but the celebration is short-lived as Liz appears in the room and the Lord manages to capture her, forcing John to drop his weapon. However, the cats still have one more card up their sleeve and call Nigel the Weasel, who gets into the villain's pants and starts biting him. John then seizes the chance and punches Dargis in the face, who falls to the ground unconscious, thus ending the confusion. At this point, Garfield and Prince celebrate their victory by pillowing Preston in the face, who also tried to take advantage of the situation by flattering the cats to get a position on the court. Finally, Smithy arrives on the scene accompanied by 2 guards, who take the Lord to jail. With everything settled, John finally decides to ask Liz to marry him, but again he does not find the ring in his pockets. However, at that moment, Garfield, in a sign of friendship, hands the ring to John and he makes the request, which Liz readily accepts. The animals then invade the place and the celebration takes place in the pool, where Garfield enjoys some more of the stewardship that the palace offers before returning home with his family. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.